right, I'm gonna been a while since I made a video, and fixing to go out for my last backcountry snowmobile ride, maybe for the year, in 2 days on Saturday. We just got another, I don't know, up on the mountain. I bet you they got another 6 inches or maybe even a foot of snow after already being like 150% above the average, and the average is like 18 feet. So it's been just a ton of snow. I've been up riding 3 times, kinda. The first time I went up, snowboat ran good down here, started all up, got it, you know, unsummerized and ready for the winter, and went up there, and it wouldn't get up to enough RPM on the throttle to actually engage the clutch. And so I was done before I even started, but a buddy of mine let me ride one of his sleds, so I got to go out, and it was terrible. It was a whiteout, it was a blizzard, it was snowing. We were the only idiots out there on that mountain. Couldn't see, you know, you couldn't see 20 yards in front of you, 50 feet. It was bad. A couple times I had no idea where I was until I finally found some identifying markers. But that was my first trip out. My second trip, you know, I had gotten that fixed. Ended up being the fuel pump wasn't delivering fuel. I could get it run with when I'd spray ether in. That was the only way I could get it loaded back up on the trailer. I'd spray ether in the carbon quick, let that be the fuel to engage the clutch to drive it up on the trailer. The second time up, went up after I fixed the fuel pump and ran good for 30-40 minutes and it just died. I was actually going back. 2 guys went on into some mountains, and I went back to hook up and meet with another guy that was going to come out and ride with us and take him to where we were going to meet up in some of the mountains, and my sled died. And I meet him, I tell him, hey, I'm going to run this back to the truck because something ain't right. And it would go 100 yards and die, 100 yards and die, 100 yards and die. So it ended up being, that time ended up being the voltage regulator. And so I got a new voltage regulator and put it in it, and went out the third time, and it ran good. And so I've done some modifications to the sled, put a vent kit on the hood to get some of the heat out of there, moved some of the electronics over, just I think improperly placed by Polaris, makes them vulnerable and susceptible to heat. And so I moved some of those things, changed the torsion on my rear track, changed my ski stance, made it even smaller to make it more tippy so you can throw it up easier in the mountains anyway. So I'm going to go out. So I thought I'd do a quick video of what I take when I go out. And we're spring riding now, so it's warmer, but even still, this is Klim pants. I run these pants. I will wear these pants, pair of long johns, and then these. That's it. And that gives me really good momentum. These are old. It's Gore-Tex. I think it's about when they first hooked up with them. And great. Klim, in my opinion, is the best mountain gear you can get. Lightweight, non-cumbersome, warm, waterproof, really, really good. And I've got an old Polaris or a Skidoo jacket, and they're super warm, but it's bulky. It's more, I think, for guys that want to ride the trails, you know, the trail systems, and perfect for that. But for mountain riding, you do work up a lot of sweat, and you don't want to do that. You want to stay warm enough to not sweat. But the biggest thing is not being restricted in your shoulders, your armpits. You know, you want to be able to move because you're jumping over from one side to the other and all that. So anyway, I wear this is just a DC jacket. I wear this when I go skiing. Still got my Eagle Point ski pass from, I don't know, March 10th somewhere, probably 2 years ago. And I will wear a light, like this jacket right here. This is really thin. It's called a puffy jacket from First Light. And that's all I'll wear with long sleeve, this puffy and that. And then long johns and that jacket. And that's all I'll wear. And then I've got Klim boots. Really lightweight, super warm. Again, non-bulky, non-restrictive. Helmet, bell. Guys were making fun of me because my visor, it had broke from, I think, dirt bike crashes. And so I finally ordered a new visor. It's hard to find a visor that will match your helmet, but this was as close as I could. The mounting system didn't work. I had to drill new. This is the original hole. I had to drill a new hole there to get it mounted up here. The original mounting hole on top didn't work, so I took this tab that was in the visor, heated it up, bent it backwards, drilled a hole, put a blind nut up in there, and then put some padding up in there in case I take a hard impact. This bolt won't smash me in the skull, right? But so I'm all set up there. Got my my goggles, and that's all I'll wear. I wear an open face motocross style helmet during the later months because it's warmer. When it's super cold early, like December, January, February, I wear a full face helmet with a visor and a fog, some kind of a mask where you breathe through and it doesn't fog up your lens all that bad. Climb gloves. These are really, I don't know if you can tell, but these are really lightweight and thin. They used to be waterproof. I found out the day my sled wouldn't run to the fuel pump, and I borrowed a buddy's and we ran in that blizzard. I found out these weren't waterproof. Got stuck. It was wet nonstop. My hands froze in these. These are great for spring type riding, but I would, or if like you're racing on a track, but I wouldn't wear them for sure in trail. And I carry an extra set of gloves. And then I've got my Polaris hoodie face mask, really lightweight. I wear that year round, even when it's if it's super hot, I won't. I've got what is just like a neck thing, and it comes up like here, and I'll wear that even when I go skiing. Okay, all right, but right now, I'll still wear that. And then I have a backpack. I wear a backpack when I hunt, when I snowmobile, when I motorcycle. Anytime I'm in the mountain, I've got a backpack. And the reason is I've got survival gear in there. I've got my food, my snacks, and different things like that. But the biggest reason is if I get stranded out there, because the mountain it's unforgiving. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what your reputation is. It doesn't care how strong you are, how smart you are, what side of the streets you live on. If something happens, you have to be ready to survive and to handle it yourself. So I've always got a backpack. And we'll begin to break this down. I don't know if it'll be an issue. We did get a lot of snow right away, and the snow conditions have been changing, but this is an Avalanche Pro. All it is like those tent stakes, or those tent poles that you get with a tent, right? And you put them together, and they got the string, and it extends, and it allows you to probe down and find your buddy, or, you know, best case scenario, find your sled if it gets buried. I have started 3 avalanches, and one time it did catch a buddy of mine. He was riding below me, and he got caught up in it and knocked him off the sled and tumbled him. It was kind of interesting because his sister was there with us, and she took pictures of me going across. You see the avalanche starting, and then I'm out of the picture, and there he is riding, and then he gets right in the middle of it, and he's disappeared. The sled's gone. Then the next picture in the avalanche, he's sitting up on top of the snow. It was fortunate he didn't get caught up in it. Okay, I'm going to turn this camera down just a little bit so that we can see this a little bit better. All right, because this is the important part. This is just, I don't even know. It's a fly racing backpack. Nothing special. Just enough to hold what I've got to have. In it, I've got my shovel. I use this probably more than anything out there. And it's a 2-piece shovel. I really like this one. I'll show you why here in a minute. And this is a must. You can dig yourself out when you get stuck. Not if, but when you're going to get stuck. But this also has, and it will extend, this also has really cool feature in that it has a built-in saw. Now I've had to use this. It got hung up in trees. We've gone down where we thought a trail was, and we've pinched ourselves into a bottom where there's no way to get out. We've had to literally cut trees. This saw has been used. It's not a gimmick. There are certain things I think out there that people sell you, and they're just a gimmick to try to get you to buy money, or, you know, to spend your money and buy their product. This is an incredible deal. The way the handle is, it also can be, when you pull it out, it can also be used just, you know, to like climb up and out of something. To use as a crutch, as a cane, has a lot of uses. So this goes with me every single time I'm in the mountain, and I use it just about every single time I go in the mountain. Okay, we're gonna break open the pack, and I've got to replenish this from the last time I rode about 2 weeks ago. But here's what all we got in here. This is where my food and all that stuff will go in right now. It's empty. It's got a sleeve for a water bladder, which I don't put the water bladder in. I don't like a water bladder, just the hoses freeze. The valve fitting can freeze. The bladder itself can freeze, especially, so I used to buy bottles of water and they would freeze and crack open because we live at 6,000 feet and we go up to 10, 12,000 feet, and I can have issues with things swelling up and breaking, so especially when they get cold. All right, get into one of the compartments. I always carry an extra set of climb gloves. These are more for you trail riders. This is really warm. This is nice to have because after you ride all day, your hands get sweaty, the other gloves, you're cold. On the way home, a lot of times I'll switch to a second pair of gloves just to stay warm. I wear a hat when I take the helmet off, put the hat on, and I've always, my helmet, as you'll notice, is tinted goggles, and I will carry a pair of sunglasses in my DC jacket. I was riding a few years ago, and we would stop, take breaks up on the mountain. Beautiful sunny day, perfect riding, and got home that day and got flash burn on my eyes. It was so bright from the sun reflection off the snow that it burnt my eyes. So now I take care of my eyes a lot better than what I ever used to. So toilet paper, you thought it was just for the obvious, which it is, but it's also a fire starter. You can't imagine how wonderful this is, and I've had to use my toilet paper hunting to start a fire. I got caught in a downpour one time. Didn't have the right gear. This was early on, the right gear in my survival kit, and ended up having to bust out toilet paper to actually start the fire. Now in here I've got this is my emergency kit. I've got it duct taped, and I'm not going to open it up, but I will explain what's in it. I've got the Mega hand and feet warmers. Those are the big ones, and they'll last 3 hours. They'll last easily 2 hours. I've had them last as much as 6 hours. Just depends how cold it is, and the colder it is, the longer it seems to last because you feel the warmth longer. When it's mild out, you don't think they're really working because they don't really need to work because you're not that cold. But I've got matches in here. I've got a flashlight in here. I've got trioxane, which is a military grade starter. It's in a little packet like that. You just break a little corner up outside of your pinky fingernail, and you can put it under some timber and light it, and it will burn for about 5 minutes, and it'll start a fire. So I have lit it, thrown on water, and it kept burning while it was on water. Trioxane is great stuff. I've got 2 aluminum foil emergency blankets in here, and I think I may have put some matches in here. I'm not a fan of matches. I carry 2 lighters. I'd rather carry 2 lighters than a lighter match, flint. There's no reason to have all those things. It's good to have a redundant system and a backup, but you don't, weight is everything. So I've got that emergency kit. I've got a bivy sack, which is, you can open it up and it's like a sleeping bag. It's waterproof, so I can lay this down, get my aluminum foil out, get my fire starter, start a fire, and I can actually build a little snow cave if I had to. I can get down into the trees, even if I got a hiking, which I'll show you some things here in a minute, and build me a little lean-to, and I can spend the night if I have to spend the night until they find me the next day. I've got a pair of merino wool gloves for sleeping at night if I need those. Okay, last compartment, and you don't want a ton of stuff in the backpack. Last thing you want is you're wearing is all this heavy stuff while you're rolling around, because the momentum will keep you going. I've had that, so I keep as much stuff as I have to. This is my water supply, and it's a hard, it's 32 ounces. That's a lot of water. It's an Nalgene bottle, and I use this, and I like the blue color and the tint. because it'll grab some heat in that, where I can actually put snow in here and leave it out, and it'll actually melt, and I can have water if I need to. So it's my 32-ounce Nalgene. Like I said, I don't have a water bladder. I quit carrying individual bottles. This is 2 regular water bottles right here, and I've got a ton more in my truck. And if I know we're going to go out for a long day, I'll carry 2 of these, or one of those and some water bottles. But when we're going to go out, I carry a, this is actually a battery pack, and it will see the USB ports. It will charge my cell phone. It'll charge my cell phone, and it'll also charge my emergency SOS, which I'll talk about here in a minute. It's just, I think it's 6,000 milliamps. So I can charge my cell phone like 3 or 4 times. That's huge when I'm lost or whatever, and they're trying to ping my phone. Or if I just want to take a bunch of pictures or videos, I can do that. Plus, this right here is also, let me see, it's also a flashlight. And it's pretty decent LED light. Okay, so my little charge system. This is my Garmin InReach, and in it are maps. You can mark waypoints, like if you're out riding in a new area. I can actually track myself, and that way if it's dark and I'm wanting to get out of there, I can actually follow myself back. But the greatest feature is this little, I don't know if you can see, it says SOS. All I have to do, and I pre-programmed it, and I pay a monthly subscription. This will get a signal where your cell phone won't. It runs on a Meridian satellite, and you have to pay a monthly subscription, which I do because I use this for hunting as well when I'm in the wilderness. But I can just hit this SOS button if I'm getting in trouble, I'm real bad, and I fall and I've broken my leg, or I'm so lost I can't get out. You know, I'm surrounded by zombies or whatever it might be. I hit this SOS button, and it will send a signal and an instant email to the closest SAR station, search and rescue SAR, and it'll notify them, give them my waypoint. It will also send an email to people that I put in my list, which would be myself and my wife, and it will let her know that I've just hit the emergency SOS button, to where she can also contact the SAR organization to make sure that everything is, you know, implemented to go out and begin the search and rescue. So valuable. Maps, tracking, marks waypoints. It's not a radio, you can't talk with it, but it does everything that I need for emergency situations. I've got a light, a really nice light for, you know, if I'm out there at night or having to ride out at night. That's just an awesome, awesome light. So that's all that I've got on my system that I carry on me. Now I'm going to get a couple items and show you what actually gets carried on the sled. And again, it's minimal. All right, I've got a tow strap, which is a nice setup if you ever have to tow yourself out or tow your buddy out. You never know. I've got a toolkit, and in here, all the things that I've done, I've got the tool that I did those things on with my bike. My wrenches, zip ties, all my Torx drivers. I got my Allen keys. I got all my screwdriver sets, my spark plug wrench, and plugs are in the sled, obviously. Electrical tape. Again, redundancy. I've got another flashlight in here that I check every year to make sure, you know, new batteries beginning to every year, and I've got a lighter. And so I've got, not just in my backpack, but I've got on my snowmobile as well. So, and that's my my toolkit, and this goes in a little under the seat bag that I've got. All right, lastly, I've got snowshoes, because if you got to walk out, when you get, you know, 22, 23 feet of snow, granted, that's not how much is there, but I was driving our first trip out that I got to ride when I was on my buddy's sled, and we were going through some trees and stuff, and I saw where the wind had swirled and around a tree, and I could actually see the depths of the snow, and it was well over my head. And if you try to hike out of that and you get waist deep, you know, just above your belly button is usually about where you'll sink now before it's hard packed underneath you. When they say get 20 feet of snow, it's not 20 feet, it's 20 foot accumulated on there. Now it packs itself down, some evaporates and melts off, others forms a hard layer underneath and you stand on top of that. But regardless, when the snow's deep, the snow's deep. And if you got to hike out, you want snowshoes. And this is what I will use this time of year. These are a little bit shorter. I'll put it on the table. You can see it comes right up to about here. These are great for late winter because the snow is harder packed and it's not that bad. But earlier in the season, I will run a little bit longer one. If I lay these on, you can see these come up higher. More surface area, they reach more area. So that is what I carry on my sled and on my person. Now, I'm going to take you over. I'm going to show you the actual sled itself. So we're going to do this without making you all sick, motion sickness. I did a bunch of work on the snowmobile, so I'm ready to go. All right, let's, I think I want to take this camera off. Yeah, tripod's just too big. All right, so this is the tunnel bag I said, and also you'll see in there, that is actually another voltage regulator, because I found out this year this model has had issues with voltage regulators. I've moved some of the electronics inside because I think that's been part of the problem. Okay, so I've done the maintenance on the track, tightened it up, adjusted it, kind of like a chain on a motorcycle. I just drilled out, and you'll see this metal shaving Jaroslav, but I drilled out some holes here in the running board so that the snow will go through so it doesn't build up. I put my vent kit in here. This is my clutch side. I put a vent here, okay, and I put a vent up here on the hood. So now I got more air getting a lot of that heat out because that heat was building up, especially in these later rides later in the year. Again, now this is the muffler side. Again, I've got that vent kit there, and I put a vent kit down here and then another hood kit, and this side's pretty well vented with stock stuff because of the exhaust side. So we're all set to go. I did put a lower profile windshield, normal windshield, especially for you trail riders in the Midwest or wherever. You usually have a little bit taller windshield to help block you, and you've got hand guards. I'm going to get hand guards. They're just not, they're about $100 for the mount kit and the thing, which I'm going to get because my hands are getting cold. But that does have heated system, but I haven't needed them yet. I do have a little bit taller riser and handlebars for throwing this sled around. It's a decent sled, but it is old. It's a 2010. It's 9 years old right now. 155-inch track. It's got the 2.6-inch track. Been just a great sled. It's an 800 Dragon. It's Polaris RMK. Good snowmobile. The issue I found out is that the suspension is non-adjustable. Front and the rear, and it's got the front shock and then the rear shock, and they're not adjustable. You can move and change the height of it a little bit, but there's no clickers, no nothing. And I'm trying to get this thing to where it'll do really easier, to where I go up in the mountains and in the powder, you know, I can keep the skis up off the ground and keep the thing running, cutting into some deep powder a little bit better. But I've only got, I think, like 2,200 miles on this thing, which is not a lot for how old of a sled it is. I did have a couple years where I only went out on a search or on a rescue for a buddy of mine that he was out with a girlfriend, and they busted way out there. And 1 year I didn't ride at all, and a couple years I only ran once or twice. So been a good sled, but we're gonna take that thing out. So this weekend, hoping everything goes good. Everything goes good. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and hope this helps somebody trying to figure out if they're going out in the mountains first time, what it is they want to bring. Some guys bring more tools. And keep in mind, in my pack, I didn't have my snacks. I usually bring elk jerky or venison jerky that I made, and usually fish that I smoke, some cheese and some crackers. And that'll be my diet. And that's a high protein that can get me through, 2-3 days. I bring enough if you ration it, you can get by. So I've also carried my cell phone, obviously, and I carry a pistol. Usually either a 10 millimeter or a 357. So there's not usually anything up there because the snow's so deep and all the animals have, retreated and gone down to lower ground. So with that, I'm going to leave this video and hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk to you later. I'll let you know how the snowmobiling went. All right, see you. Bye.